Hello everyone, Jai Hind and welcome to the platform of StudyIQ IS in English. My name is Bhanwar Singh, MX India 115th course and qualified civil services in 2012. And I welcome you on the platform. Now in this session, I'll be talking about why most of the UPSC aspirants, they forget what they study. Actually, this is about, these are certain questions that I want to ask you. And I want you to give the answer in yes or no. Now what happens is that does this sound familiar to you when I am asking these questions? That when we read, so we have read the chapter, all right? We have understood everything. We understand everything that is there in the chapter. There's, there's a confidence that comes from within that, okay, I know about this, all right? And then what happens is that we forget ultimately most of it after the 15 days. So have you encountered this? This is very important and I want you to answer yes or no. And if you have encountered this, then I have the solution that you are looking for. Now, over here, what should be the right way to revise? So over here, it is very important that you have to understand that this is the biggest myth when it comes to the UPSC. And it is not about to study more. All right, you do not have to, ask yourself that if I need to study more, but you have to ask that you need to forget less that you have studied. So over here, it is very important that more input without retention is the wasted effort that you have to understand. If we are not retaining what we have studied, so then it is a wasted effort, and that is where most of the aspirants, they lack, because ultimately they are moving towards more of the inputs instead of retention. Now, our brain forgets something, and this is completely science. I'll talk about, what happens is that when it comes to learning, so learning without revision is just like filling a bucket, that has a leak. So what happens is that you fill it and there is certain leak that happens, and that is what most of the students, they focus upon. They are focusing upon the filling of the bucket. That is, they are focusing upon the input, that is reading more and covering more of the topics. But it is very important that the toppers, they focus upon, plugging that leak that is there in the bucket. And that is, they focus upon the retention, where they ensure that what they have studied is actually that stick with them. Now, what could be the right way of this revision? We'll be talking about this in this session itself. So this is actually the 5 revision rule that you have to process and you have to move forward. And this is not an event, but it is a process. And that is, the first day you study. All right, you have studied on the first day. The next day you do the first revision of what you have studied. All right, and then on the 7th day, you have to do the second revision. On the 30th day, after a month, you have to do the third revision. And before, you are going for the mock test, do the 4th revision. And ultimately, before your prelims, you have to revise for the 5th time. Now, each revision, it will reinforce the last one, and that will have a compounding retention over the period of time. And I will show you how. Because when it comes to the first revision, that is within the 24 hours. So the retention, it jumps dramatically. That is very, very important. And what happens in the brain is that same day or the next day when you review or you revise, so it sends a signal directly to the brain. And it is that this information matters. And you can take a very simple example, and that is just read Lakshmikant. Just read something that is there in chapter 1, chapter 2, and ultimately spend 15 minutes revising tomorrow. And you will see that the difference is enormous just in one day. That is very, very important. Now, the second thing is about the second revision, that is after or within the 7 days that you cover. Now, over here, the brain begins creating the long-term memory after you go through the complete thing or the text that you have studied just 7 days before. So without this second revision, the information, it will fade rapidly, even if it felt solid after the day 1 revision that is there. So this 7-day window is when the neural pathways, they will begin to solidify, and you will start absorbing that material, and that will get stored into your brain permanently. Now comes the third revision, that is within 30 days. Now, in 30 days, when you will be revising it, that will bring your brain to the familiarity, where it is about the chapter which will stop feeling new to you. You will feel that, okay, I have studied this chapter. And that is within 30 days or the 30-day revision period that you have to have. And there is pattern recognition, where the student, they begin connecting the ideas, they begin connecting the concepts which are there in the complete chapter. And that is where you get the confidence. This boosts your confidence, and it is where your complete journey, it starts to build as well. Now, when it comes to the revision, it is very important before every test. Now, why do toppers, they improve faster? You must have seen. You must have seen it in school, in colleges as well. And that is because the tests expose their forgotten areas. And the toppers use this information strategically and they cover those areas in which they are weak. So there is strategically, they target the weak areas just before each test because they know where they have to work hard. And this is not random, where it is purposeful review and not just last minute panic that they go through. And that is what you need to understand. Now, when it comes to the last leg of the revision, that must be before prelims, where you have to revise so that it will create the confidence to sit in the examination. The confidence is actually not motivation. It is basically the remembered knowledge that will sail you through. And this is the final revision cycle before your prelims that will transform your familiarity of the subject into the exam ready recall. That is very, very important before your examination. Now, when it comes to the smart revision system, so we have this smart revision system that we have to follow, and it is very important for your complete selection. Now, the smart system, it is about the structured study plan, where we have the built-in revision slots which are there, and ultimately, you must revise whenever you are going for the new chapter or you are going for the new topic. You must revise what you have studied previous day. So that is very important. Just move towards what you have studied previous day and devote like 15 minutes to 20 minutes for this revision. All right, that is very, very important. Then ultimately, there is mentor that must track your complete revision cycles because it is the accountability that matters. And the mentor, he must or she must see that if you have revised properly or not. There should be a proper assessment where the test, it will reveal the forgotten areas, and ultimately that assessment is quite important. And this assessment, it should tell you that there is your weak areas and ultimately what are your strong areas. Now, after every test, your strong areas, they must become stronger and the weak areas, they must move from the weak to the strong areas. That is what your targets must be, and there must be proper revision cycles which should be planned and not random, and there should be test-based learning that should be there. And you can call this SMART. This is the SMART framework for the revision that must be there. Now, why I'm telling you this? Because when it comes to the StudyIQ, we have the complete framework where we have the structured study plan that is there. And before every class, we actually, devote nearly about 15 to 20 minutes in revising what we have studied our day before. Then there is 3 revision cycles that are there, which are inbuilt in the StudyIQ platform, where the first revision you get just before the starting of the class every day. There is also the follow-up revisions that are there, and also there is a one-page revision notes that is given to you so that it summarizes everything that we have studied that day. And ultimately, before your prelims, before your mains, you do not have to go through the bulky notes, but you can just revise everything from those one-page notes which are there. Now, there is the mentor tracking where you get 1:1 mentorship at the StudyIQ. And when it comes to the assessment, it is very important that we have the dashboard that is there. We have the dashboard that actually tells you that what or how you have scored in your test, which are basically your weak areas, which are basically your strong areas. And ultimately, when you connect with the mentor can also see this dashboard. And thereby, the mentor is basically someone who had been in your shoes, and they know that what to be done and what not to be done. And they can guide you thoroughly for your complete success. So now over here, the mentor is also seeing your dashboard. You are also seeing your dashboard, and they can revise your strategy accordingly. And that is the need of the hour when it comes to the SMART framework or anything that the SMART aspirant they will do. There is also the revision cycles which are there. They are planned and not random. And there's test-based learning that you will get, where every test, it will become a tool on the platform of StudyIQ. So ultimately, when it comes to the structured study plan, that is very, very important because there is built-in revision cycles that are there, and study plan without the revision slots, it is just like a reading list. You are just reading something that is in front of you, and the structure, it ensures that you revisit everything that you have happened to studied and automatically, but not by the willpower. That is very, very important. So it is pre-scheduled that is there, where we have the revision dates set before you begin your studying, or the revision cycle, it actually begins just before the class that is there. There is topic linked where each chapter ties back to the revision cycle on the platform of StudyIQ. Then comes the mentor tracking, where it is about the accountability, and it is very important that you revise more consistently when there is someone who is tracking your revision cycles or your progress. So a mentor is not just about a guide. He is, or they are, basically they hold you to the plan, and that is very, very important when it comes to the mentorship. And aspirants with the mentors, which are they are significantly, they are more likely to complete the planned revision cycles as compared to those who do not have the mentors, because the mentors, they are keeping a track of everything that you are doing on the system. Then there is assessment, where the test, it will reveal what you have forgotten. And assessment is actually not just about evaluation. It is basically the diagnostic tool that should be there, and every wrong answer that you are giving it, that will map you completely to what actually needs the revision, and that you can see on your assessment dashboard on the platform of StudyIQ. Then there are the revision cycles. All right, that should be there. And the revisions, they should not be random, but they should be planned, where it should be based upon the schedule that should be there, where there should be planned revision. You have to identify the gaps and target the restudy as well. That is, you have to focus upon the gaps which are there. And then ultimately there should be the test-based learning, where every test, it should become a revision tool, where you have to take the test, you have to review the errors, and then you have to revise the targeted areas where you have scored less, and that is quite important. Now, when it comes to this complete regime, you must be thinking that it is very simple to follow and I can do this on my own. But most of the students, they fail to follow this. Why? Because there is no system that is there. There is no framework to follow. Also, there is no tracking, that is no visibility of the progress, and no accountability as well, where you are studying alone without any feedback. Also, there is no revision plan, and ultimately revisit, they are left to chances. I have seen people who are revising only the first chapter every time. All right. Every time they think, okay, I must revise the polity, and they just, open the M. Lakshmikant and they revise chapter 1 and then close it. And the next time again, when they are revising, they are again revising the chapter 1. So that is where you have no revision plan, and ultimately no mentorship, where there is no one to correct your course for the complete preparation. So ultimately, these are the reasons why most of the students, they will fail to follow this complete regime. So why we have built this program this way? It is because so that you can see that there is preparation that should be designed around the proper revision or the smart revision, where you get the structured study plan, the revision cycles, the mentor who tracks your revision, as well as regular assessment and the test-based learning. So this is for the students who want the system. It is not just about just lectures. You can get lectures everywhere, but it is not just about lecture. It is about the system that will be built, and ultimately on the basis of this system, you can see that this is the scientifically designed system that actually ups your percentage of getting selected in the UPSC examination by numerous times. And that is why when it comes to the complete system, you can see that it is about the reading that will make you familiar, but it is a revision that makes you competitive, and that is why I'm talking about the smart revision that is quite important in today's arena, when the competition, it has been, or it has increased so many times. So this is the course that I'm talking about. It is GS Foundation course. We have the resolution P2I badge for the English medium, and if you are preparing for Civil Services 2027, 28 or 29, you can join the course, which is modeled upon the SMART framework, where you get the structured classes, where you get the revision, we have the mentorship who tracks your revision, you have the assessment dashboard, the revision, the 3 stages revision that is there on the platform of StudyIQ, and the test system as well. Now over here, please remember that if you are joining the batch, all right, if you want the system, join this batch right now, because the batch is starting on 27th of June. Also, very important thing that you have to keep in mind is that for fetching the maximum discount, you can use the code that is BRS Live, and that will gain you the maximum discount that we have on the platform. So that would be all in this session. I hope that now you have had a complete idea about what is the best way for the revision, and why there has to be a 5 cycle of the revision before your prelims or before your examination. So that would be all in this session. Thank you very much, guys, for joining me over here on the platform of StudyIQ. I will see you in the next, but till then, please take care of yourself. Do like the session, do share this session with your friends who are, appearing for the civil services in 2027, 28 or 29. And even do not forget to subscribe to our channel so that you do not miss any of the updates and important things in the future. So that would be all. Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care and Jai Hind.